Hey, good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to have a conversation with a guy who does a lot of work with MSA, tertiary markets, real estate. Kind of conversation. If you're involved in real estate, you're going to want to listen in. Mr. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Josh. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah.
Looking forward to our conversation.
Well, me too. All right, so you and I are hanging out in a coffee shop or a bar, depending on time of day, and someone walks up and they go, "Hey, I'm Bob," or whatever. Who are you? What do you do? That's how guys typically introduce themselves. How do you respond?
I respond usually with, "My name's Tim Williams. Nice to meet you." I do as little as I can get away with. Uh,
Yeah.
Usually that's how I answer. It's tough to pin down. I used to be able to answer that question very directly. I was a fourth generation farmer in Florida. I still farm in Florida, but that's doesn't really encompass what I'm all about nowadays. I wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah, and I love hats. On my back wall, we have a whole list of hats. I've been an entrepreneur through and through for a very, very long time, and entrepreneurs do wear many hats. So let's
Hmm.
start taking a look at the hats that you wear on a day-to-day basis, or a deal-to-deal basis. What
Sure.
what kind of hats do you wear in terms of the entrepreneurial journey that you do on a day-to-day basis?
The core of our business that faces outwards, right? Because we also own and operate, a family office uh, where we manage investments and mostly real estate based. But our outward facing, persona to the world and work, core of our work is really providing real estate investment services and advice to clients, primarily those engaged in 1031 exchange processes, often segueing from vacant real estate, vacant land sales, supporting agricultural businesses and uses, to commercial double net and triple net properties, where you're able to kind of trade a very high capital intensive process through agriculture, where you make a very low return, very low 2 to 3%, to triple net and double net real estate investment with credit rated tenants, where you swap that return, very low return, for what I would consider, especially in today's times, a very good high return of 5 to as much as 9%, if you're comfortable with leverage.
Yeah.
So we assist people through a 1031 exchange processes. That's really the core of our business, and we provide a service that's a little bit different. We have a very small number of repeat customers. I call it the friends and family plan, and of course we always are growing both friends and family, so that's good. But we provide kind of a boutique service in that regard, and that's the core of our public facing business.
Okay. So with the family office, is that a how did that evolve? How did you get involved into that field? And then I love talking, triple net, 1031s, commercial real estate. Love talking about that stuff. But let's kind of go origin story. How did you get your start in the family office biz?
Sure. In 1984, I started farming with my family. We've worked together for 10 solid years, 10 great years, learned a lot, took over different aspects of crop management, and had various responsibilities. I started on my own then, farming with my dad. We incorporated and started our own company in 1994. And we actually increased the size of our farm so that it was the same size as the farm that I farmed with my uncle and his kids, my great larger family. So then we worked that together, packed through the packing house that we had established, which was actually, I was the fourth generation, sorry, to be a grower, packer, shipper in the outside outskirts of Miami, which was a fantastic place to live at that time. And what happened was we were kind of in a squeeze play between the Everglades National Park and Biscayne National Park and the urban wave. So
Yeah.
those three, very different, but very demanding processes are always ongoing, right? in any when you farm on the fringe, right, the fringe of urban area, you're always faced with the similar pressures. So in reaction to that, they had some great ideas that were great for their, individual focus, but were very adverse and could adversely affect our ability to continue farming, and also would have dramatically eroded, if not completely unraveled, land values. And most farmers in the United States of America today rely on land values to borrow the money to put their crop in. So that was a key component of our business structure, both as a participant in my larger family operation and, of course, on our own. So when those things started happening, I had to react. There wasn't a choice. You couldn't just, lay down on the tracks and kind of, squeal and expect somebody to come save you from the oncoming train. You had to take action. So I did that. I partnered with the guy who owned the most land in that area, and we were already farming together. He and I and my dad with our company. So we had the most. We felt like we had the most to lose and the most to gain by kind of steering, jumping up in the train and kind of at least trying to have a meaningful impact on that process. So we did that successfully, and I actually started a company which was kind of the birth of the family office, where we became consultants to the developers. We kind of hand selected a particular developer that we felt shared our concepts about increasing value and delivering a very forward-looking product that could have the chance of changing the way development occurred in our area. That was, of course, Landstar Development Corporation. And so I partnered, and of course, they're doing that again now in West Palm Beach area, in Loxahatchee, of all places.
Sure.
Of course, with a wildly successful, tremendously planned and well-executed project.
Yeah.
So I got to work with them and their business partners for over 10 years, really longer, about 12 years. Through the last development cycle, and became the actual applicant for what turned out to be about 7,000 single-family homes, multifamily single-family homes, and about 450 acres of commercial development, including the first new hospital to be built in Miami-Dade County in about 30 years. So the Homestead Hospital, Homestead Baptist Health Systems Hospital, is on a piece of dirt that we planned for that use. And I used to farm beans on, and actually a little bit of potatoes on one corner of it.
Wow.
So that's how our family office came to be. Our farmland was not something that I purchased, but our final crop was houses and shopping centers, and getting those things through the entitlement process, it is something that you can't really fully appreciate unless you have been a participant in it. One of the cool things we did at that time was, with the help of Landstar, with their full support on their dime and with their professional team, they agreed with my concept, and we annexed 650 acres from Miami-Dade County into the City of Homestead, which actually served as a foundation to save them from state financial oversight. So in the course of our development, we actually saved the city from financial insolvency, which is pretty cool. I'm very proud of that process, and really enjoyed working with the Landstar guys, and to have a role in that was quite spectacular.
So explain what was the situation that was going on where an annexing of the property solved the problem. What problem were they having? They were insolvent, but what did you see as the core issue of that problem?
Hurricane Andrew came through and took out a lot of the tax base.
Yeah.
It took out a lot of the people that were pulling the community cart forward. We lost our senior management, so to speak, command structure at the Homestead Air Reserve Base. Because the BX went away, we lost a lot of the people that stayed in South Florida and participated in the community after that. We lost a lot of good people. If people could leave after that, they tended to leave. So we were in a terrible spot. And, city government has to go on. You need your police, you need your, development services, you need the parks and rec. Even if there's, no tax base to support that, you still have a lot of outgoing money. So that's really when the grants and the extra funds and all of the, the FEMA supplementals and state assistance kind of dried up. It wasn't very many years before the city was in a pretty dark place financially.
Yeah.
And of course, annexation, that's a brand new tax. That's new taxes that come into a city. And of course, the benefit for a developer is, which is, without that, it's not going to happen. Having one government to control all of your project, so that you don't have to be accountable to two separate, entitlement systems. Could you imagine having to make a zoning application in the county and then another one in the city? And what if they don't agree? What if, the codes can be different, the philosophies can be different? It can be tragic, and not even attemptable. I'm not sure if that's a word, but you couldn't even try that if you didn't have uniformity of government.
Yeah. So solving government money issues it seems to be, there's a lot of issues there, and you guys were able to do that through annexing the 600 acres, you said, in South
About
Florida?
650.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
From Biscayne Drive down to Campbell Drive. So I forget the numerical equivalent for Biscayne, but down to Southwest 312th Street and over to 137th Avenue. Cool. And up to Biscayne Drive.
So August 16th, 1992, Hurricane Andrew plows through South Florida. I was in Broward County. I lived down south. And then where were you? Were in that area? You were Homestead area, right?
I actually had a condo in Lakeshore Village, which was on the second floor. Wow. On the point of a lake. Great place for the wind to really ramp up and hit from all sides. It was about 2 miles from our packing house. Wow. At the time, which of course was also destroyed. The exterior was destroyed. The packing line was still intact. But my condo, when I came back after Hurricane Andrew, I came back to a waterbed, a concrete floor, and a dishwasher. That was it. No walls, no roof, no nothing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
it was quite something.
We were a little bit north of you in Sunrise, and we lost our fence. We saw like our neighbors like play set get them flown away. It was pretty. My sister, I was 10 or 11 at the time. My sister slept through the whole thing. she did. Yeah. And I was outside fixing fences with my dad. Afterwards, my father in construction, we went down south to Homestead and we helped rebuild a lot of the homes. We were in construction at the time.
Very cool.
Yeah, man. It was so our paths might have crossed. I was only 10 or 11, so I didn't have gray hair at that point. But yeah,
me neither.
Hurricane Andrew gave a lot of people gray hair. Why did you decide to stick? Right, because a lot of people exited. You stuck. Why?
Our complete and total, multi-generational asset base was there. I was fully invested in, returning to farming and growing a crop. Those were the things in front of us. I couldn't imagine, not doing that. Facing challenges, having been a farmer, is a little different than I think facing challenges as, maybe in any other business. So I really never considered the option of leaving. It really wasn't a concept that made sense to me. Because I still wanted to farm, right? I wanted to farm, and you can't move the land. Once you have land in Florida, and that's really an issue that's faced with all of our growing cities in Florida. That land that's around them, some of it is the most productive farmland in the country. So people are like, well, what are you going to do? Well, you can't transport that land. You can't make new land, and you can't take it with you. So for me, there was no choice but to stay and dig in the trenches and pull the cart.
Yeah. So we fast forward to where you're at now. We're back at the coffee shop, and you got your family office operating. Do you guys make your own investments? Do you guys manage other? Do you co-work with other family offices? What's your structure there?
Yeah, we actually formed a limited liability company at the time, but it was a limited family partnership, which is a little bit of a different structure. Florida has great laws that allow for limited liability companies, LLCs. It's a very popular format for business and structure. Um, and we have LLCs that we use now, but we created a limited family partnership, which allowed for tremendous savings for capital gains taxes, right? We kind of saw on the horizon that some of the things that were happening were not sustainable, right? Things that were outside of our control. Do you remember I mentioned before the two parks kind of competing for
Yeah.
the area in the middle and where all of our farmland was? There, in order to best manage the timing and quality of water flows to the environmental system, both in the Everglades and in Biscayne National Park, they needed to raise the subterranean water table so that more water flowed under the ground into those two natural areas. Well, that's fine if you're, in a parking lot and, a couple of times when it rains, you get 3 or 4 inches of water in the parking lot. Your car's like, the car doesn't care. Maybe you get your shoes wet going to your car. When you're farming potatoes, which are grown under the ground,
Yeah.
3 or 4 inches of increased water table rise under the ground was catastrophic. We lost the ability to manage rainfall, right? We could get 6-inch rain, and if our fields were set up correctly, which of course ours were, we designed them so that they would shed that water quickly, still retain water for the potato plants, but the balance of the stormwater would exit into this existing stormwater system. Well, when you take 3 or 4 inches out of that over, a 12,000 acre area, that's a lot of reduced capacity. So we really literally lost the ability to continue farming our crop. And we kind of saw this happening, right? As I started to engage and share information with the government entities that were involved with those processes, I quickly realized that, there are things you can do and there are things you can't do. And changing the plan, the general plan, and the individual plans that all lined up to the same, ended up with the same result, was not something that was possible, not by one person, certainly not by our Potato Growers Association, not by the various entities that we were engaged with, advocacy groups like Farm Bureau,
Yeah.
for Florida Vegetable Association, the Nursery Growers Association. All of those groups are fantastic and are important, but you just can't change some things. We pretty quickly realized that at some point we would have to sell the land. And in fact, my cousins, what catalyzed the whole concept of development for us was my cousins put some land up for sale. They were planning for their future, and they listed some land for sale. And that's really what kind of sparked that process. So we had to
Sure.
react to that. And by forming the limited family partnership, we were able to not incur capital gains. Even though we were selling property, it's a pretty elaborate process. Kaufman Rosin, some of the best CPAs in Florida, they have a big firm in Miami-Dade County, downtown, actually near the Bay. I assume they're all going back to work soon after COVID, but they're brilliant tax advisors. I strongly recommend them, Kaufman Rosin and Associates. They're just phenomenal. And we had been working with them and to this day still work with them. So
Yeah.
they pioneered that process with some other guys from around the country. It's unique to our circumstance and others in the similar circumstance.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of management, and it's a little fairly awkward, but it worked for us. And farmers also don't tend to plan. For a farmer, the future is, well, I need to buy that land when it comes available for sale. And if you
Right.
have multiple generations that have done that, maybe instead of investing in 401ks or if retirement planning, they may be dependent upon liquidation in order to survive, in retirement.
Sure. Yeah. So you kind of saw that coming to you. You saw what was going on with the two parks encroaching in on you.
Mm.
You saw what was going on in the government and trying to move water tables and
Mhm.
increase water flow. So you started to see that, and you reacted by setting up a family a limited liability partnership and
Right.
essentially your family office. You sold some property. You didn't have to pay a heavy load of capital tax on that. So now you had some capital in hand. What was
Mhm.
the next action plan for you?
Well, at the time, I was still engaged as a lead consultant for the same entity, providing consulting services. We were the applicants and registered lobbyists for, Landstar, Lennar, Pride, Prime, Lowell Homes. So a ton of different participants in the processes going on, and those builders who were involved in our master plan projects.
Yeah.
So my focus was really on providing that service and doing a good job at that. But at the same time, we did have to plan for the future. So yeah, we invested money that came from some of those sales. We through 1031 exchanges purchased property. A lot of that was vacant land. But we also did some real, investing in real estate investment trusts and just general stock market investing.
Yeah.
So, and our core business now for our personal home office is, owning and operating and managing real estate related assets, and also, funds that are managed, thank heavens, by investment advisors for the most part, but still take a lot of daily, work. Not daily, but frequent. You have to keep your eye on all the balls with
Yeah.
that. It's like, yeah.
What tools or things, so let's just say someone's, a couple steps behind you. What tools do you recommend for managing all those balls up in the air, managing the different funds that you guys invest in, managing the properties? What tools do you like to use?
If you get a great attorney,
Mm-hmm.
if your core business is real estate, get a real estate, centric attorney. If your, business is something else, where you have a lot of labor issues or whatever, focus on that. But yeah, have a great attorney that, you talk to and tell them, look, we want to do this, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Explain to them your plans, make sure that they're a good fit for you. And either engage them with an annual retainer, or bring them into your projects. There are a lot. I know attorneys that make good partners. There are attorneys that don't make good partners. But if you find the right one, you can have an attorney that's a real estate investment partner with you. So sometimes, yes, you still have to pay, right? Because title insurance gets written on every transaction, hopefully. So there's still revenue sources in the deals. But you can find that you can reduce your out-of-pocket expenses and increase your chances of making a good deal and having a successful deal by having attorneys involved, either directly working for you or engaged as part of the process and as partners in whatever you're attempting.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Tax advice, CPA, great CPAs. Not every CPA is an expert at everything. I guess I'm not, sharing a secret, because certainly people who pay taxes know that, and most CPAs, may reluctantly admit that too. But like when we dealt with Kaufman Rosin, we dealt with a trust specialist in their firm, a guy that we knew personally. We knew his family, we knew him. John Anzavino is phenomenal. Just a great guy. It's really. Feel like he's part of the family, really. But Kaufman and Rosin has depth. They have depth in every kind of practice area that you can imagine for taxes. So that's a good plus too. If you find a good CPA that you like, and maybe it's not, just a single mom and pop, although that works great too. But if you find a CPA with a firm that has depth, that assistance is more readily available and probably at a lower cost. So those are the first two things. Beyond that, again, following the same theme, get good professional advice. If you have an investment advisor, you can't always do everything on, what's the Reddit version of trading your own stocks? They just
Day
got
trader.
crushed by the market. Yeah, day trade apps.
Yeah, swing trading, Robinhood,
I
those kind of
forget
things.
Robinhood. That's it.
Yeah,
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 Hood.
yeah.
So there's only so much that you can do on
Yeah,
that. At least if you're me, right, and you have other things going on.
yeah,
So the busier you are, the more you should rely, in my experience, on professional advice. So hire someone who's a certified financial planner. They can work for fill in the blank. Raymond James. Um, what's the Jones? Edward
Edward
Jones.
Jones. Yeah,
You really just fill in the blank. There's a lot of Merrill Lynch, all of those entities have people on staff that work in your area, no matter where you are in the world, who are certified financial planners. They generally get the idea. Yes, it costs something, but the bigger you are, the less it costs. You can drive, you can negotiate better deals. And if you're a good person and you find a good person and they don't mind working with you, it's really not work. That can be fun too. Um, and I find myself, helping some of our professional advisors that I rely on for advice. After 10 years or so working with them, if they have a question about real estate or something agricultural, and related, I'm certainly available to help them as well.
sure. Tim, going from farmer, right?
Mm.
I'm just assuming, right? Overalls and a plow, right? That kind of thing. Going
Oh yeah,
from
I planted every acre of our potatoes every year that I farm potatoes.
oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. You got your hands are probably super strong, and you probably have some major calluses built up on those hands.
I
But
still today. That's true.
that is hard work. I grew up in construction, digging
Yeah.
footers and such like that.
Well, yeah, you know how it goes. Yeah.
And in Florida, it gets pretty hot.
It
So
does.
yeah, but going from plowing,
Hmm.
being from farmer to family office, what
Hmm.
was a mindset shift or a personal development thing that you had to increase in to take on different types of responsibilities? And what happened in your world that had to change?
I married a fantastic woman who became my wife and has been, my right hand really since then. So even again, follow us a variation on the theme, right? Having support. We have 4 kids. There's a lot that goes on with that. Having a partner to help with that thought process. She was one of the first employees for Florida Power and Light
Oh
Corporation
wow.
to receive a computer, a personal computer. And you're not talking. This is not that long ago, right?
Yeah.
I think she was 17, maybe she was 18 years old,
Yeah.
and she's 55 now. So you're not talking about a long time ago. She was the first person at Florida, at Turkey Point Nuclear Power Plant, to receive a personal computer for her work for Florida Power and Light.
Yeah.
So and I married her a few years after that. So she brought a skill set to our farm that we didn't have before. And of course, we made good use of that, quick to adopt all of those, applications that are just easier on a computer. So there was already some mind expansion happening. I would say the other thing that helped was our association with Production Credit, Farm Credit of Florida, and Florida Farm Bureau. They all have, those are all advocacy organizations. Of course, Farm Credit, loans money to farmers. It's a cooperative. So that's a little structure that's not available to a lot of other businesses. But it is available to agricultural producers. So we took advantage of that. Our bankers, had boards and groups, the local chamber of commerce, by exposing yourself and engaging in those types of things, right? Advocacy organizations, community organizations. I picked up a lot, and I kind of, my mind expanded. So I was able to consider some other things. And I think that's true no matter what business you're in, no matter what you have going on. If you get out in the community, you will be exposed to other ideas, other concepts. You'll see what works and what doesn't on a different kind of level. So that definitely helped me with my business and our family.
Yeah. So in your wheelhouse, right? Like fourth generation farmers, like you get agriculture, right? Like you get the ag industry, you get it, you
I
know.
think so. Yeah.
Well, if you haven't learned it in four generations, definitely not going to pick it up.
Right.
You know, that in real estate, did you ever venture, especially like late 90s, early 2000s? You know, we saw a lot of tech companies come up. Now you guys are a family office. You guys have a little bit of capital. Did you take any forays into the .com stuff or any tech investments early on?
No, not really. You know, it's funny because farming is gambling, right? It's a version of gambling. There's no other way to describe it, because the risk that you have is usually disproportionate to the gain, and anything can go wrong. So many things are outside of your personal control as a farmer. Things could go wrong, and you know, you lose it all. So the private side of farming, not, you know, the actual borrow money and farm and plow it into the ground and hope it comes up and you get a return, uh, tends to leave people more on the conservative side when it comes to personal investment, right? Whatever we take away from our farms, generally, we don't want, you know, that's the risk, right? So we
Yep.
don't want to personally risk a lot.
Got it.
Fortunately or unfortunately, no, we did not do a lot of that type of investment. Matter of fact, some of the investment that we did was based on what we learned in working with our development partners.
Yeah.
You know, all of our communities had community development districts, which are tax increment financing districts. Not quite like the one that our governor just unraveled for Disney, but it's the same idea, right? Reedy Creek Improvement District is a special taxing district. They collect money and spend it on infrastructure for Disney in that case. Well, for our developments, you know, the paving, drainage, water, sewer, all the maintenance and upkeep for a 2,000 unit development. The ability to deliver that when the first house goes in is based on bond financing. So we would buy some of the bonds that were available in projects that we knew everything about from the start.
Yeah.
And they were paying quite well. You know, you were getting 5, 6, almost 7% when we started
Wow.
on some of those early CDD, Community Development District bond packages.
Yeah.
So that's pretty mainstream, pretty no risk. Yeah, they were municipals too, so they didn't even have taxes, associated with the payments from those.
Yeah.
So they're tax-free municipal bonds from that perspective.
Super cool.
Yeah.
How old are you, Tim?
I am 54.
Okay, so 54 years old. Looking back, what was your best deal ever, worst deal ever?
Oh, I would have to I'd have to bifurcate the categories slightly.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, the best deal ever was my consulting agreement with Landstar on the first Waterstone Phase 1, because that basically taught me a whole new trade.
Yeah.
And we spent the next 12 years doing similar consulting work for Landstar and all of the subsequent builders in those projects.
Super
So
cool.
while that was not extremely lucrative financially, I can't measure what I learned through that process and was able to accomplish. So that was probably the best deal. The best financial deal, working with Gene Garcia, CIP Group, when we did a small project on Campbell Drive, Crystal Lake, and also in Homestead.
Yep.
Cool. That had the best financial reward. Timing had a lot to do with that. The design and what we created there. We paid some of the highest prices to ever be paid for real estate in that area to our seller, who was also an agricultural partner of ours, Bob Plyler and his family. Had a tree farm, and we actually worked with them for 20 years before that. Pioneered a process that allowed him to pay a lower rent, but then paid a little fee per tree when he harvested his trees, which worked for him, worked for us. And when we bought his property, we paid them, gosh, it was over $180,000 an acre, which was the highest land price for that area to date. Not the odd commercial, single tenant retail out parcel, fully at pad ready, tapped out, ready to build, but vacant, unimproved agricultural land.
Wow.
When we started the process, we were at about $22,000 to $25,000 an acre for agricultural land, and within a 6 to 8 year period, we had the opportunity to pay Bob 180,000+ per acre.
Wow.
So that was very exciting, right?
Good job, Bob.
Yeah. Well, and look, he's even passed away, but I'm sure that that's still working for his family and his kids and their kids.
Totally.
But then we were able to plan and entitle a development, and make sure that it would work, and then those the value of that being ready to begin construction, we get paid on a per door basis for the unit count that we could support, and then some factor in for the commercial part of the project as well. So it was financially rewarding.
Good for you, man. Awesome.
To fully entitle that and then sell that property to Pride Homes, actually, is the group that bought it. And I've still worked with Pride Homes even today. We still do some things, have done some things in the state in the last 5 years. So
super cool. Worst deal ever.
Worst deal ever. I may never see the return on this investment financially. So that's why I wanted to bifurcate it.
Yeah.
Financially, buying 120 acres here in Suwannee County that abuts my home. We paid a premium for that property from folks who are developers in their own right. They planned a flag lot project. Jim Jean has a kind of a program in a can for taking large tracts of agricultural land in proximity to developed centers, small cities, and, not inside an urban development area or an urban boundary, urban service area, but close enough to where, you don't have to drive more than an hour to get to the grocery store or whatever.
Yeah.
So Jim Jean sells those through a telephone system. They do a culvert and a drive in, and you get your 5 acres or 10 acres, right?
Yeah.
And those are flag lots making use of the existing paved frontage. Usually, maybe not developed ever, but someone's idea about, someday I'm going to build a house in Florida. But often, with older mobile homes, that's a cheap way to live. I'm all for that. But I may not want to put my house next to it. You follow me? Yeah. So they had a flag lot development plan for the 120 acres just beside the house that I had just bought, on another 120 acres. And it was now or never, right? They were going to do that, and they had been doing that with some other properties. They were going to be successful at that. It's allowed by the code. If I ever wanted to control what happened on the property next to mine, that was the time. And that was the peak of the market. That was like late 2007.
Oh, geez.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So I've sold timber off of it. I've had a tree nursery, operating there for the last couple of years. I'm not even close. I'm not, my kids maybe will get some return from that investment, but it's great, right? It's there, and it prevents, we go all the way out to the paved road now for our property where I live.
Yeah.
So
the best way to control your neighbors is to buy everything around you, right?
Apparently so.
Yeah. Oh man. So 2007, that was a tough year, in the real estate industry, construction industry. I built with partners and investors 40 something spec homes, right? 2006 and 7. Yeah. Yep. That wasn't fun. During that time, right, there was that dip. Like, what was your focus during that time? Were you gobbling up more land afterwards? Were you going on acquisition mode? Were you going into, let's pull back mode? Like what was going through your mind?
Well, looking with hindsight, of course, I can tell you what I should have been doing. It's easy to figure that out.
Amen. Yeah.
But I was still working until 2012, right?
Mm,
I was engaged as a consultant doing development entitlements, working through processes that were, maybe a concept in '04, put together in '05,
mm.
funded in '06, and, make application '07. So there was a lot of that still to do until about 2012. I was flying back and forth from North Florida to South Florida, appearing at hearings. We had hearings once or twice a month, and then meetings, most of the days spread in between. I was trying to cut back and do a 4-day work week, but there was still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So for me, I know that the market came apart, right? Because there was the pipeline stopped having incoming work, right?
Hmm.
But the sense of it, what didn't really, manifest until probably about 2010. In 2010, I looked around and I was like, oh my gosh, there's no work to do. And there's no money to be made. Like we would look at deals and there was no way to make that work. Like there's just nothing you could do with that.
Yeah. You said
So
you
I
know
feel
what you should.
fortunate.
Yeah. Well, you said I know what I should have done. If you could go
Yeah.
back in just one small tweak
Hmm.
back in '07, '08, or during that time
I,
frame, what would you have done?
I would have amassed more cash. I would have cashed out of some of our not real estate related, but not high growth stuff. And
Hmm.
I would have probably had more cash on hand. Probably would have sold some dirt, that we didn't need. And had no like, oh, I'll get to that, because we had bought some things to make other deals happen, and was, oh, we'll get to that, right? We'll do that later. Well, not if there's no market.
Right.
So I would have had more cash, and I would have waited and bought. I would have bought more. I would have bought more houses, single family homes. The rental market really started to crank up. 2013, 2014, 15, 16. I mean, that would have been a great time to have purchased, 20 or 30 single family homes to take advantage of the collapse in pricing. And we could have put them in inventory, rented them out, and then, in the last 3 years, started selling those off. And I, would probably, I may not, I would never leave my house maybe
Yeah.
after that. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Travel. I'd probably just be traveling.
Cool. Um, I'll let you decide. We've got a little bit time left in this chat. You mentioned, now you spend, a lot of your brain power and mind power doing some real estate deals, triple net, double net. You do 1031 exchanges. You work with real estate funds and REITs. What is the topic within that you feel excited about talking about? You also do political working with governments and agencies.
Mhm.
So what is the topic that you want to dive into, and then we could kind of round out the back end of this interview.
Okay. I can tell you something that I'm pretty excited about. An area of the market that seems to hold a lot of opportunity still.
Okay.
I think a lot of the money that was being left on the table over the last year and a half, 2 years, even 3 years, in this particular niche of the commercial real estate market has been, carved off and put on one plate or another. But I still think there's a lot of opportunity there. Medical marijuana dispensaries in Florida. Yeah, there's nothing that really compares from a simple cash on cash return perspective. The cap rates on those are excellent compared to most every other type of commercial real estate, especially single tenant retail. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. We're actually working currently with a customer, a friend and client, to acquire a medical marijuana dispensary. I think, I put it this way: I don't know of any other medical marijuana dispensaries in Florida that have been purchased with a purchase money mortgage through a financial institution in Florida, a bank in Florida.
Yeah.
We may be the first people to do that,
Awesome.
and I'm very excited about that. And maybe follow up with me in 60 days, and maybe I'll give you a report on how that went. And that information would be helpful, I think,
Yeah.
to a lot of investors.
We work with a group that does investments into the cannabis industry. They're a VC group, and they are super excited with what's going on politically in this realm and the opportunity. They are super excited. So I'm happy to do some introductions after this interview. But yeah, I agree with you.
Cool.
I think that is an area that Florida's paying attention to, and there's going to be a good opportunity there. I really do.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And look, I mean, from a personal perspective, I've never served in the military, but I have a lot of friends who have. Being a farmer, I know a lot of older farmers.
Yeah.
And it's a rough life. Construction industry. You've been in the construction industry. How many people do we know that are in the construction industry that live in pain every single day?
Totally.
And I don't want those guys to have to, or girls to have to deal with, opiates as an option. That's certainly not a good option. I would love to see marijuana legalized nationally, and I think probably we're on the way to seeing that happen. I hope. But regardless of that, Florida has its own thing going with that, and the real estate part of it, right? You can't. So the way it's set up in Florida, you cannot actually own. You can't be affiliated with a license. You can't, manufacture or sell. Some other list of things you can't do to actually own the dispensary real estate, unless you're actually the licensee or something. It's complicated, but so for us, it's great for investors to that's a way to participate in that new business and get a decent return.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm in. I'm excited about it. Where our group is participating.
Good.
So yeah, I'm excited. You and I will definitely have some follow. Well, the purpose
Cool.
and mission of this show is to put people and deals together, deals and deal makers, right? So that's what I love about my job and get an opportunity to meet great people like you doing some cool stuff. Let me ask you, Tim, during this interview, we'll give you a chance to give people, how to connect with you and such like that later on. But what question should I have asked you during this interview that I screwed up and you're like, it was sitting right in front of you, Josh, you missed it. What should I have asked?
My mind doesn't really work that way. I react, if there's a specific goal that I'm looking for, I do too much research behind that, and know more than the people I'm going to see. In this case, I just kind of float along. So I don't know that you didn't ask any particular question. Yeah, I thought you did a great job.
Well, thank you. I thought you did a great job as well. We
Well,
did
thank
good
you.
together. Sounds
Thank you.
good. So,
Thank you.
hey, Tim, for people out in the industry who might want to do a deal with you, connect with you, and have a conversation, what's a good way for people to find you, your business, some of the things you're working on?
We have not done a good job of keeping our website up to date, but it's being worked on. So SeberAssociates.com, SEBER, associates.com. We'll be up and running soon, but our email and telephone is the best way to get us. My telephone number is 386-590-9015. That's 386-590-9015. And that's probably the best way. The email is a kind of a throwback. It's been my email since I was farming. So it's FL Potato, the abbreviation for Florida, and then POTATO at prodigy.net. Also a dinosaur there. Prodigy. Yeah, prodigy.net.
Awesome. fellow deal makers listening in, as always, reach out to our guests. If they're working on a deal that seems interesting to you or that you could participate in some way, reach out to them. Say, hey, heard you on the Deal Scout show and want to figure out a way to do some deals together. All their contact information, what they provided, will be in the show notes. So if you're running, jogging, watching a movie, whatever, you can always come back later on to the show notes, click it, connect directly to our guest. If you would like to come on the show yourself, talk about a deal, talk about some of the things that you've learned that we could collectively learn from your successes or failures, head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, maybe get you on the show next. Till then, talk to you all on the next episode. See you, everybody.